Okay. Well, welcome to Thomas Nelson Community College's Press Play studio, and congratulations on becoming the college's 9th president. How long did it take for that to sink in?
A bit of it, it's
has it?
Yeah, it's still sinking. It's definitely still sinking in. It's, I don't know how many people say I want to grow up and be a college president. It really is. I don't know when it became, it's interesting. I don't know if that role is ever anything I actually aspire to. And so but the work was something I always wanted to do. The work that a president gets to do is something I always wanted to do. And it's amazing now that I get to have an opportunity to do that work. And it really hasn't sunk in. When I pulled in this morning and our chiefs, escorted me to the president's parking space, I think that's when it really sort of hit me. And my daughter was with me and she took out her phone and took a picture of it. She said, I'm going to send this to grandma. And I think at that moment it started to sink in.
Does it have your name on there yet?
No.
Or it just says the president?
Just as president. But I think at that moment it became very real. But it's still sinking in.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you got the offer to be the next president? Absolutely.
I was doing what many of us doing today. I was on probably my 5th Zoom call of the day, and I was giving a presentation, and I saw my phone ring, and it wasn't a number I recognized, and so I just put it to the side because I was in the middle of this presentation, and then another phone call comes in, and again I said, I'll get to it as soon as I'm done with this presentation, and I get an email popped in, and it said, the chancellor's looking for you. You may want to give him a call back. And at that moment, I figured this might be a really important phone call. And I stepped away from the Zoom meeting and reached out to the chancellor. And that was when he made the offer.
What was your initial reaction?
I believe I was surprised. I was completely surprised. He's hilarious, by the way. He has a great sense of humor. He said something, I'm paraphrasing, something like, the people at Thomas Nelson seem to like you, and I kind of feel like I should offer you the position. And I remember my response was, Dr. DeWall, I think that's just swell. And then we began to talk business. But even at that moment, it was just... When I left Thomas Nelson after the interview, I remember it was the same feeling I had after I met the man who would be my husband. I had dated and met some great guys, but nothing felt right. And when I met my husband, I said, this is it. This is the guy. And when I left Thomas Nelson, I remember thinking, this is it. I fell in love with the campus and the people, the students. It was just something about the energy. It felt like our energies were aligned. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be really heartbroken if they don't ask me out on the second day, if they don't make the proposal. But it was something about this institution just really resonates with who I am. It just feels like a great fit. And I couldn't be more excited. And I think because, similar to my husband, when I met him, I said, I want this to be long-term, forever, like the till death do us part was the feeling I had. And when I'm here, I have that same feeling, like I really want this to be a till death do us part. I've never felt this way about another institution, and that's sort of like what I'm still getting used to. I really feel love for a place that I just met. But I remember meeting my husband thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in love with this guy and we just met. So it's been an emotional experience for me, because I really just want to do the best job for the institution.
What attracted you to the position at Thomas Nelson beforehand? What prompted you to see that job opening and say, oh, I want to apply for that?
The community. Definitely the community. This is a very, very rich, diverse community. And I'm a native New Yorker from New York City, and being here reminded me of being home. Just the diversity of the people, and that's just the community. The college, though, it was very interesting in reading about what the initiatives at the college. It was very clear that every initiative was student-centered, very, very student-centered. and business center. So how do we make this a thriving community? How do we make this a place where people want to come and do business and grow their businesses? And then how do we prepare all of our students, regardless of where they come from, for opportunities in the community? And there were so many initiatives surrounded around helping our students be the best, helping our community be the best, but also the investments that Thomas Nelson was making in faculty and faculty development. I thought it was very interesting that the foundation annually gave so that faculty could do research, and pursue professional development. And even in financial times where, finances are limited and resources are limited, there was still this opportunity to give to the faculty so that they can continue their good work. And seeing that the college prioritized the academy and teaching and learning and excellence was really, really, really exciting, because many institutions, when your resources are limited, some of the first things they cut are the things they see as fringe. And seeing that this institution said, we're going to continue to give to academic excellence, to professional development, and to our students, that was very attractive. It helped me understand where the priorities of the institution were, and that's not something that's common at many community colleges. And I was very excited to see that regardless of the financial constraints that the college was experiencing, and that all community colleges were experiencing, that they still were invested in giving to their students, giving scholarships, giving to faculty to do professional development and research, and just the number of initiatives that continue to grow, in service to students and preparing them for careers or transfer. That was exciting. The energy, that constant movement and examining what we're doing and is it working? Is it in the best interest of students? That was very exciting, because that's the type of energy that I have. And so I was very excited to see that the institution, was doing everything that I wanted to be. Everything that I ever wanted to do was sort of already going on at Thomas Nelson. That was very exciting.
Have you had a chance yet to walk through Moore Hall and see the portraits of the previous presidents?
I have, actually. I have.
And what's it like knowing that, eventually you will have your portrait up there?
There. It's, one of the things one of the first photographs or portraits that I saw was Bob Teplin, who is a mentor of mine. And it was very interesting to sort of, to see. As when I got the offer, I emailed him and I said, I get to sit in the same seat that you sat in. And I was like, that's so exciting, and I said, he's a wonderful gentleman, and this college has a history of extraordinary leaders, and it's humbling. It definitely is humbling. It feels like there are big shoes to fill. There's so many great leaders that have led this institution, and I sort of get to, take the baton and continue to carry, the work that they laid forward. It's a humbling experience. And what's interesting is I never think about like my portrait being next. It feels as if that's something I have to earn. Right? I look forward to earning that privilege of having a portrait. I hope that, when my tenure is over, people want to erect, a portrait for me. It gives me something to work towards.
How many times have you visited here since being offered the job?
Ooh.
And what's that drive like? Well, I'm assuming you drive.
Definitely. It's about 4.5 hours. I'm in Western North Carolina, and so most of the time is spent coming east, and then probably an hour coming north. It's an easy drive, I have to say. Leaving New York and moving to North Carolina, I've driven back and forth from North Carolina to New York a number of times. And so a 4.5 hour drive is nothing compared to, a 10, 12 hour drive. It's a great drive. I've been back. This is probably my third time.
Okay.
Coming back, I had to find a place to live. That was exciting.
Have you done that yet?
Yes, yeah. Well, I have an apartment for now,
okay.
And my daughter's a 10th grader, and she's a volleyball player, and so her season ends in July, and so she and my husband will be joining me. Probably her season ends in June, so she'll be joining me in July. She and my mate will be joining me in July. So I did find an apartment. It's in Williamsburg.
Okay.
Which may be about 40 minutes away from this campus. I'm not sure, depending on traffic.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm hoping to finally settle probably somewhere in the middle, like maybe Newport News area. But we'll see. There's a lot to consider. But I said I have to have a place to live come January 1st. But this is my third visit, and there'll be more. There'll be a few more. The area is fantastic. So I'm enjoying, and I want to get to know the area. I want to feel comfortable. If security caught me this morning driving around lost, I want to do a lot less of that. By January 1st, I want to sort of get my bearings.
You officially don't start until January, correct?
Correct.
But yet you've had a presence at a number of the Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be on campus tomorrow for the holiday
Yes.
party. It seems like that's done on purpose.
Yes.
How important is that to you to start doing that before you're an official employee?
It's definitely on purpose, definitely intentional. I didn't even feel as if I had a choice. It's something I feel as if I have to do. Being a leader in general, I think, is about relationships. But and that's regardless of where you lead from. Relationships for me are really important, and this has given me an opportunity to build relationships, not only with the people on campus, but also getting familiar with the city, getting familiar with the areas, and getting to hear what's on people's minds and what's on people's hearts. I've done a lot of listening, and I've shared with people I'm listening, and I shake my head a lot up and down when I talk. And sometimes it fools people into think that I'm agreeing, but it's my brain just processing and storing things in the vault. But it's really given me a great opportunity to get to know the people, but also to get to learn a little bit more about the culture of the campus, and what's important to people, what's pressing on people's hearts, what's keeping people up at night, what people are excited about. And that's the students, the faculty, and the staff. And that's really important for me to be aware of what are some of the things that folks are concerned about, what are they excited about, and just what is the energy? What's that energy? What makes people happy? What makes people smile? And that's been really important to me. And also I want everyone to know that I am invested in Thomas Nelson Community College. I'm so invested, and for me, when you're invested in something, you show up. Right? And whether that's in person, or virtually, you show up for the things that you care about. And so being present at some of these events, even prior to January 1st, is really because the institution's important to me and I care about the institution and I show up for the things that I care about.
Now, you mentioned you've been at Mitchell Community College for about 5 years?
Almost, yes. Yeah.
What was your biggest accomplishment or the most proudest accomplishment?
I would have to share we're in an interesting county, a lot of wealth in the southern end of our county, and a lot of poverty in the more rural area of our county. And we have Mitchell has a history of being a junior college, where people who had maybe middle class or upper middle class got their education. And so in the 70s, it became a community college, but there's a lot of elements of the old former all-girls junior college, where girls from a certain class went to become good wives or maybe teachers or I hate to say finishing school, but the preparation, the educational preparation was really not for ladies to go to work. It was really to prepare them to be, domestic wives and good partners. And there's a bit of that still existed. And so because of that, when the demographics of the institution changed, the culture of the institution was still one that was built on preparing middle class students for maybe work, but definitely not a group of people that had to work. And so there weren't a lot of resources for students in need. We would lose students because of the cost of a tire or actually the cost of a tank of gasoline. And that was, it was alarming, especially as an enrollment specialist. It was alarming to see. I knew the fragility of community college student lives. It was alarming to see that the college didn't have a way to respond to those needs. And so one of the things that I would say I am most proud of is over the last 3.5 years, I've been able to develop I call it the Student Support Services Center, which handles and serves and responds to transportation needs, housing needs, food needs, utility needs. And it's something where mental health needs, which has been a growing critical necessity. And being able to offer students these wraparound services, holistic services that really address the non-academic barriers to students' pursuit of their education, and doing it in a way where students don't feel uncomfortable asking for help. We don't let students ask for help. We reach out and say, we know students struggle. Tell us, how can we help you? Here's what we're offering. Today we're doing a drive-through, a Thanksgiving food drive-through, where we've prepackaged our food pantry and students get to drive through. They tell us how many people are in their family, and they're going to drive through, and we're going to give them, bags of groceries just in time for the holidays. But something like that wasn't something that existed before, and there were many services in the community, right? There's plenty of food pantries in our community, plenty of places where you can get help with utilities, but for our students, the ability to get to some of those places meant you might need daycare or you might need a car that you do not have. And so having your campus be a place where you not only got your education, but you got your other needs met was something that I would say I'm very proud of having. And we also have we call it a scholarship, but if you're struggling financially, we will respond to your financial needs. I mean, we've paid for people's cars, $1,000 car bills, but we understand that $1,000 is huge to the student. But without it, they're not going to get the education that they need to help their families move out of their socioeconomic status. And so for us, the $1,000 is an investment into one of our students and a community member. So that I would have to say is something I'm very proud of, is just raising thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to just put it into the hands of students. And the retention rate for those students has been phenomenal. I mean, the first year we had 100% retention rate of every student that we served, and we're probably at about 90+% now. So that's exciting to see that the funds that you're using to help a student get over those financial barriers are also helping them stay enrolled and persist through graduation. And that, I would have to say, is probably one of my proudest accomplishments at the college, was really just seeing how that investment in students is helping students accomplish the goals they set out for themselves.
And about how many students does that
oh, wow. At least
serve?
About 500 a year, which is about 25%. 20% of our enrollment, about 500 students.
And then you have the retention rate of 90%?
Of the students, are absolutely. It's amazing.
So that's over 400.
And we also serve continuing education students, which is interesting. We have a dual enrollment population, our traditional curriculum population, and our continuing education workforce development. A student is a student. And so those funds go to anyone who's enrolled in a class, whether it's a high school student or a continuing education student or a traditional transfer student. They are served by our division, and it's been amazing.
Is there one thing there you would have liked to have accomplished or maybe finished and weren't able to?
Always. There's always work. There's always something left undone. Let's see which of the two that there's always something that our career center, that is something where we don't have a standard career center. We don't have a formal career center, and that's sort of like a double-edged sword, because our industry has, I've researched and I've interviewed many hiring managers and HR directors, and many of them say, we love a student with a degree, but there are these soft skills that we want students to have. The interpersonal skills, communication skills, problem solving. There's skills that they want their graduates to have, and they're finding that many students are sharp as a bug when they get into the workplace, but there are these soft skills that they're missing, and industry doesn't have time to teach it, and they really want community colleges to do a better job of helping students be, have those employability skills, I think is the term. And so I really wanted to be able to offer almost like part of a student's senior year, like part of your experience. I want you to be able to go through almost like this grooming program, so that when you graduate, not only do you have your credential, but you also have those soft skills or those employability skills that's going to make you stand out. And on the other side of that double-edged sword, when industries in our community are looking to hire, they don't have that one point person or one place at the college where they can say, hey, the water bottle company has 10 vacancies available. The manufacturing company has 20 vacancies available. And lawyers, they say, I'm looking for some Mitchell students. You're looking for some college students. They don't have one place to call, and they would like to have one place to call on campus. And so I see a standard career center as an opportunity to really serve our hiring managers in the community who have said, we want to hire your students. students. We want to give the first opportunity to your students, and then also to be able to prepare students for those opportunities that we know are coming. And I would have to say that is one area that I didn't get the opportunity to take on, and it's not a regret. It's something I leave behind for my predecessor to take on. But I would have to say that's the one area I wish I would have gotten to.
What's one thing you're going to miss about Mooresville?
Oh, I was going to say the traffic, but I won't. It's interesting. The area of Mooresville that I live in is oddly filled with transplants from the north. It's all of us who left the city, and we wanted a slower pace of life. And somehow, in our area, when you hear the New York accents, the New Jersey and the Pittsburgh, it's interesting. A little pocket of Mooresville that's really just a mini version of New York, which is it's fun. It's sort of fun to see all of our sports regalia in a little southern city. But I would have to say, if there's one thing I'm going to miss, our neighbors it's so neighborly. And I'm quite sure it's neighborly here, but it's coming from New York and being new to the community. We were embraced. People are so neighborly. I remember the first week we moved into our house, my neighbor actually brought over like a tray of cookies to say welcome to the neighborhood. And when you're from New York, that doesn't happen. Not in Brooklyn. That doesn't happen too often. But that was something that I just thought was the sweetest thing in the world. Like, we check each other's mail when one of us is out of town. My family and I were very tall. And so we get called on in the community often to hang things and adjust things and put stars on Christmas trees. But it really feels it feels like a quaint small town where neighbors know each other and they look out for each other, and that was a great change of pace coming from the big city, and I'm hoping to find the same here. But if there's anything I would miss, it would be just people are incredibly neighborly.
And you mentioned earlier that one of the things that impressed you about the area so far is the diversity.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that has struck you in your handful of visits here?
The energy is different. Like, this is the town I live in. There's probably about 35,000 people in Mooresville, and here there's probably about 180,000,
I think so.
roughly. And so that was being around that energy again, because the diversity also has to do with the size, the size of the community, I love food, the opportunities for food, but also the connection. I've been part of the State of the City for Hampton and Newport News. It's interesting to see while this area has a city feel, the small businesses, the number of small businesses and how they're engaged in the community, and how it seems like local government is engaged with not only sort of like the health and wealth of the college, but also with the health and wealth of small businesses. It's been interesting to see how, even though this feels like a much bigger city, that it still has that element of, the mom and pop shop and the small business owners. And it still has that feeling where I still get the feeling that people know each other and they treat each other as if, that it's a small town. That was interesting to see, even though it's a huge city. Compared to where I'm coming from, it still has the elements of people know each other and they care about each other. So that stood out. That stood out for me as I've gone around. When I was here for my interview, I was just looking for a place to get my hair done. And I was just walking around, checking out different areas. And I remember there was a salon owner. She's, come on in here. You're new to town. What's going on? What are you looking for? And I thought to myself, just trying to get my hair done. And she's like, come in tomorrow. I'll make some. It's just that's the same sort of feeling I have in like the town where I'm from. So it was just very interesting to see that while it is a much larger city, there's still those elements of what seems to be like, welcoming and very neighborly. That was interesting. That stood out.
What's first on your to-do list here at Thomas Nelson?
It's definitely probably more of what I've been doing, and it's really listening. I don't know if I could listen enough. I'm sure I have not met every constituent, and I have to share. I would be remiss if I did not share. There is a presidential transition team that has been working really, really hard on designing what my first 90 days look like. And I got a preview of what that list looks like. And it's a lot of meeting with people, meeting with multiple constituents that represent local government, the school system, different constituents on campus and groups. And that's exactly what I would like to do. It really is important for me to meet the people who have a vested interest in this institution and in this community and really hear what's on their minds. What's on their hearts? How would they like to engage with the college? How would they like the college to engage with them? What are the pressing matters? And so that's usually how I spend my first few months, is listening to folks. And that seems to be what the transition team has planned for me as well. But that really is important, because relationships, are always two-sided. And so it's really important for me to spend a good amount of time meeting with people and listening to people, and then also spitting back to them what I'm hearing. I think that's very important, being able to make sure I'm hearing what they're saying. And then what I end up doing is I keep copious notes, and I try to find, it could be just the researcher in me. Are there patterns? What are the patterns that I'm picking up on? Are there any similarities in what I'm hearing around concerns, around things that people are celebrating? But listening is really important. And that's going to help me understand, maybe after the first 90 days, what would my first step be? That's really going to be driven by what I'm hearing from our constituents on campus, from students, and from the community.
A lot of people would look at all those meetings and say, I don't want to do meetings. They want to, get out and, I guess, for backlash for it, lack of a better phrase, get their hands dirty and do, quote, real work.
Yeah.
Are those meetings something you feel comfortable in that setting and you look forward to those? Definitely.
That's the building the relationship. That's really where I always imagine I'm not good at taking things apart. Like if my check engine light went on, I wouldn't just pop the hood and start pulling apart the pieces. It was sort of like I would have to take time and investigate, and listen. And do I hear a click? Do I hear it? Like what's going on? I think it's dangerous, actually, to sort of jump in, head first and get your hands dirty. Because I think if you don't understand the complexities of, what you think you may be tackling, if you don't understand how things are interrelated and how one area may impact or affect another, I think that could be very dangerous. So for me, the meetings are really about building relationships, so it's almost like, dating, there's a reason, you date and you want to learn more about the people. You want to learn more about the history. You want to learn more about the culture. And so I don't see the meetings as, I see the meetings as a very useful way to get to know the people and the places and the culture and the history and really hear what's important to people. So that's important. I can't say I love spending all my time in meetings, but I see the meetings as a way to start developing relationships and start learning about the people who have a vested interest in Thomas Nelson.
When your tenure is up here at Thomas Nelson, and hopefully that's many years down many years down the road, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want people to say about that time period?
It's very interesting. When I was an academic advisor, my answer would have been the same. When I was a registrar, when I was a dean, my answer is really the same. I hope that my presence made a positive change, made a positive difference. I hope that people will say, fill in the blank, like X was better because of her participation, because of her influence, because of her advocacy. I like to leave the place better than, the way I found it. I think that's always been what's driven me, leave the world a little bit better than how you found it. And at the end of my tenure, I would want there to be folks in business and industry and in our local community and local government, and honestly in our students and our alumni, I would want folks to feel as if things are better because I was here. And that's always been, even as an academic advisor, I would love seeing my students, my little babies 10 years later. And, when you're an instructor and they say, you said something that really helped me or that changed my life. It makes me feel as if they feel that their life is better because of a bit of advice I gave freely, that makes my heart sing. And I do hope that at the end, I hope I have a very long tenure, and I really do hope that at the end of it, there is evidence that my presence made a positive difference in the community and in the lives of our students and the faculty and staff. That's the goal.
You mentioned earlier that you never dreamed of being a president at a college, but did you always want to be an educator? Did you always want to be involved in education? How did that come about?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. My mother, who's a business owner, she's a small business owner, the restaurant and bakery business, but she started out as a culinary arts instructor, actually, before she opened her own industry, her own bakery and restaurant, and she was always teaching. And I was always teaching, no matter what. My career started in information technology, but still at an institution of higher education. And I was teaching, I remember at the time, teaching faculty how to incorporate technology into the classroom instruction, and I was teaching. Something about me just was always teaching. But I, as a young person, my teachers were my teachers. I knew that there was a career in education, but I didn't know that it was something that I would pursue. I believe having people say to me that my advice or my instruction made a positive difference for them, I think helped me identify an area that I may have some value in. I can probably be good at anything I do. I'm one of those folks, if you teach me how to do something, I'll do everything I can to master it. I do believe I could have followed any career path, but I would have probably always have been teaching in that industry. And at some point in my life, when I first worked at my first community college, that was when I realized how important education was to the people I served. And I think that is what lit the fire in me to pursue education. Is for me, I knew education was a pathway out of poverty. That was what I saw in my mother's life and in my life, that education gave you an opportunity. But that was very personal for me. It wasn't until I started working with students that I realized that they didn't have choices in their life if they didn't have education. And when I realized, for me, I had an option. I could always go back and work at my mom's bakery. I always knew if anything failed, I had the safety net of going back to work for mom. And I always knew that that was possible. But when I started working at a community college, I realized that there were so many students that I served that if they did not learn a skill, if they did not get a credential, a degree, or a certificate, that their life was going to be stuck. They were going to be stuck and options would be limited, and for the generations to come. And that's when I realized that I could play a role. I could play a role in helping people advance their socioeconomic status or advance, their ability to earn a skill. And that's when I sort of felt a calling. It was sort of, if I could help, why would I not help? And that became the most important thing in my life, was saying, for whatever reason, I felt like I was given this opportunity to help people, and people seem to be willing to take it, and it seems to be benefiting them. And I really fell in love with this knack that I seemed to have for helping people get to where they wanted to go. And as I grew professionally, I realized that as my responsibilities grew, my ability to help others grew. It expanded as well. And so the reason I began to seek the vice presidency and even the presidency was because I realized if I really want to make a significant impact, I have to be in a position to do so. So like I said, when I was an advisor, I believe I helped everyone on my caseload. I think they got the best of me. Everyone would get 100% of me. However, in the role of vice president, I moved from helping 300 students to 3,000 students, and as a president, so I really, really began to see how significant the role was, or how connected the role was to having an impact in a community. And so even though the position was never what I pursued, it was really the ability to have a greater impact in a community. And that's what became attractive about a presidency, was that opportunity to just have a more significant or widespread impact.
How did you make the transition then? You mentioned you were working at IT.
Yes.
And then you made that, was that out of college too, or is it someplace else? And then how did you make that transition to a higher education?
Sure. I actually started in information technology working at my alma mater.
Okay.
And this was the early 90s, and where technology was, changing and expanding with the blink of an eye. And I had an opportunity actually I had a job offer to work at a Fortune 500 company on Wall Street, and they paid very well very well to young people who had the gift for technology. And I remember one day our server went down and a supervisor came in and was screaming at us and was quantifying how much money we were costing the company for every minute the network server was down. And it was just so demeaning. It was just so very demeaning to have your existence quantified that way. And I remember thinking, I don't like that feeling. I just did not like that feeling. And someone from my alma mater reached out to me and offered me a 50% pay cut to come back and teach technology. And I willingly accepted. I just said, I felt as if my purpose in life was not to make a Fortune 500 company richer. And it was just to have your existence quantified for you in that way. And many people stayed, many people stayed and they paid very well. But I remember being in higher education and being in a space where the goal was education and exploration and enrichment of the mind and the soul. I said, that's where I wanted to be. The money was not as important. And everyone thought I was out of my mind. And it was interesting how quickly, people came to check out my office space. They couldn't wait for me. But I remember, gladly accepting almost a 50% pay cut to go back into the realm of higher education. And I never went back. I never looked back. It was the best decision. It was the best 50% pay cut I ever took.
All right, now we're just going to have a little more fun. You mentioned your family earlier.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you have a daughter?
Yes, I have a 14, she's almost 15-year-old 10th grader named Rebecca. She's my one-hit wonder. She is the single child of my husband and I. And she's a joy. She really is. I'm very proud. I guess most parents are proud, but she's a huge supporter of me, which is very interesting. She's at that age where she can be incredibly self-centered and, but she's not. And she's a very caring young lady, which everyone warned me that the teenage years would be terrible. And maybe they're coming, right? Maybe they're coming. But, she's a huge supporter and a huge fan of mine. And I really want to make her proud all the time. She's a great student, great little volleyball player, tough on herself all the time, no matter what I say. And my husband, David, who is he's my partner. He's a great partner. It's so interesting. I remember I was dumped. I was dating a gentleman who I just knew I was going to marry. And I was dumped right before Thanksgiving. And I remember saying, when God's ready to put the right guy in my life, he will. And 2 months later, I met the man that would be my husband. And we have this click. We actually grew up. It's amazing. We grew up about 2 blocks from each other in Brooklyn. And I never ever met him. I remember when we first met, he said, I think I've eaten at your mother's restaurant. And I said, no, I would have remembered you. I would have remembered you coming in. And it was amazing that, we had never, ever crossed paths, and I remember telling my mother about him and she says, oh, I know him. He worked for my mother's attorney, which was also very, very interesting. But it just shows you how life works out. I'd never, ever laid an eye on him. And we realized we had all these, these people in common that we'd never met. And he's also a huge supporter, great fan. He's the quiet one, and I'm the outgoing one. And people might think that doesn't work, and it does. He's secretly he's a secret extrovert, but he only lets me see that side. But he's fantastic, and we've been married for almost 16 years. 16 years in January.
And then, how old were you when you met him?
I think I was maybe I'm going to say 27.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 20. that age seems. I think I was 27, and he was 28. And it's easy. It's interesting how easy our relationship has been. I share with people, and people think I'm lying when I say this. We have probably had 3 disagreements or 3 arguments in the entire time that we've known each other, and it's just. I don't know what it is. And we're not perfect, but we communicate we have similar values, similar things are important to us. We find similar things humorous. It's been such an easy relationship that it's bizarre. I keep waiting. I keep waiting for the other shoe to fall off, and I figure maybe after 15 or so years it's not going to. But it's really it's making the decision to move down south, because that was huge. That was my desire to pursue a career interest, and I was terrified of asking, my family to move with me. We were fine, in New York. And I remember my husband just saying, yep, sure, whatever you want to do, let me know. Just one of those, yeah, sure, whatever you want to do. My daughter, yeah, Mom, let me know, But it's that kind of just, we love each other, we support each other, we poke fun at each other. It makes any tough day just better, knowing that I have this incredible support system. And my mom, she's 71 going on 17. She's at that age in her life where she said she's raised her children, and now she's just going to be a reckless 70-year-old. But she's also, always been a huge proponent and pushing me. And she never gave me the feeling that I couldn't do anything. And I was one of those children where every 3 months I wanted to be something else. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be an auto mechanic. I wanted to be a race car driver. And she said, fine, whatever. I wanted to be a journalist. She supported every wild dream that I ever had. And I didn't realize until I became a parent how annoying I must have been, as a child. But she always pushed me. I remember when I called to tell her that I had been offered the presidency here at Thomas Nelson, she said, "What did you do? What did you do at Mitchell? Are they firing you?" I said, "Ma, no. You raised me better than you." But she knows that she's always pushed me to just pursue passions and dreams. So it's been really great having a family that just supports every desire that you have. It makes life just so much better knowing that I have a support team that, one, they want me to take care of myself. They're invested in taking care of me, but they really support me. And that feels great. It feels great.
And what does your husband do?
He's in real estate. He works for Bank of America, actually. He's been in real estate probably most of his adult life. His first real estate transaction, his parents, he was adopted by a 60-year-old couple that had never had children. And so they adopted him when he was about 2 weeks old. And so it's a beautiful story, but unfortunately, they died of old age. And by the time he was 19, both his parents, they died within 30 days of each other.
Oh, wow.
And so he was a 19-year-old kid living in a big brownstone in Brooklyn and had to figure out how to take care of himself. And so one of his first real estate transactions was selling his parents' home. And I guess he caught the real estate bug and never left. So he's been in the real estate business probably, almost 30 years.
Now, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one little sister. Saying the word little sister, we're probably 16 months apart, but she is a very traditional little sister. She works with my mother. She's never left the restaurant business. Those two are tied at the hip, and she's worked with my mom. They've worked together forever. My mom opened her first bakery when I was 7, I want to say, and my sister was about 6. And she has been in the business with Mom forever. And I think she loves it. I think she loves it. She has a college degree in social work. But something about the restaurant life, it is very, very, very addictive. Being with people, if you love people and serving the public, and she's quite the ham. My sister is quite the ham. She has a gift of making sure that no customer leaves with the amount of money they thought they were going to spend. I watch her, and she can sell you anything. And I think it's a talent that she loves to grow. But she and my mom, she's been my mom's right-hand man probably for the last 10 years, helping her run the restaurant. But she's still my little pain in the butt sister, but I love her.
What do you and your family do in your free time?
We have a newfound love for escape rooms. We love escape rooms. We also love to travel. Travel has been very difficult this year. This year was my husband and I 15th anniversary, and we planned to do a tour of Europe this summer, which did not happen. But hopefully we'll get back there soon. We do love to travel. We love going to different places and seeing how different people live. My husband loves food. You can't tell by looking at him, but he loves food. He loves to eat and he loves to cook. So we love to explore different cuisines and just see how different people live. Anytime we have a free moment, we love to travel. Escape rooms, however, has become our new love because we also love problem solving. And we love to push each other's buttons. And if you're ever in an escape room with people you love, it's the best way to sort of see the best and the worst of us come out. So we have, we figured since we can't travel abroad, what we plan to do at the end of this year is sort of drive around the country, at least the eastern border, and attempt to break out of various escape rooms.
I think there's an escape room in Williamsburg.
Yes. When we were here for my interview, we went to at least 4 in Yorktown, Williamsburg, Newport News. I don't know if we went to one in Hampton, but before we leave, there's probably an escape room on the agenda.
You're going to know all of them, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
So did you, this visit up here, is this with your family?
Yes, they're with me. My daughter's actually in the office because she's still in school today, so she's online doing her homework, and I'm going to go scoop her up when we're done today.
And what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
We will be home. We'll be home. We are just very conscious. I'm the COVID-19 point of contact at my institution, and so I have, I have a unique view of, what's going on with the spread of coronavirus. And so I'm trying to be very responsible and, not expose myself. And my family, the New York family, we can't visit New York unless we quarantine for 14 days. And my mother's birthday is actually this weekend. So, we'll be visiting via Zoom with the family in New York, and we'll be home cooking. My husband, he loves to cook, and he's an amazing chef. So my daughter and I get to be brats and put things on the menu and, ask Daddy to make us these fine delicacies. But home, we'll be spending Thanksgiving at home and on Zoom.
There's some fun questions. What's your favorite color?
Orange.
Orange.
Yes, orange.
Why is that?
It's a 70s thing. It's something about the 70s. I grew up with those, wild 70s, the orange and red and yellow. I was surrounded by those colors, and I just fell in love with orange. And I like a dark orange, like a dark, rich, almost pumpkin kind of orange. Yes, but orange. Love orange.
What's your favorite time of the year?
Ooh, favorite time of the year is fall, the autumn, the tree, the colors of the
orange.
Trees, orange, yeah, seeing the reds and the yellows and the orange, definitely.
What's your favorite place on earth?
Oh, favorite place on earth. There is actually a place that I visited in Greece. It was in Athens, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's the Parthenon. It's the Parthenon. Just breathtaking. So peaceful. And I love history. I love to see the artifacts of history. It's just, I was there, and my entire body was relaxed and at peace. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. And the food is also pretty phenomenal. So Greece is it's a place I'd visit over and over if I could.
What's one place you'd like to visit but you haven't yet?
Definitely. Let's see. Turks and Caicos. The Turks and Caicos. I enjoy the beach. I enjoy travel, and I've heard about these white sands in the Turks and Caicos, and I have not had an opportunity to visit yet. So I would definitely love to go sink my toes into these white sands that I've heard about in the Turks and Caicos.
Who is your favorite author?
Ooh, let's see. Favorite author. If I can remember... I cannot remember. I want to say it's John Steinbeck, but I don't remember if that's true. Come back to it. I'll see if I can remember. But I want to say it was John Steinbeck.
Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men.
Yes. And those are like books I read in middle school.
Yeah.
And they have just stuck with me. It's interesting. I've had my daughter. It was amazing when she was in school and she got to read those books again. Yeah, just something... I didn't realize at the time, I was too young to realize at the time the powerful messages that were in those books. It wasn't until I was much older and I had to reread them that the messages started to really resonate with me. And I think it's the message is timeless. It's interesting. The messages are timeless. But yeah, that would definitely be. And it's amazing to see that my child is reading those books, 30 years later? Yes,
yeah.
30 years later.
I've started rereading some of those, the ones from our high school days.
Yes.
I even put a message out on Facebook saying, hey, what books did you read in high school that you would recommend? Because you see them in a different way.
Right,
and,
yes.
I reread Of Mice and Men. I reread Animal Farm.
That's probably one of my favorites.
And that one, I don't know, maybe just because what we're going through now, that just seemed to really, 1984, and then some of those others, and it's like, you're kind of thinking, boy, I wish I had paid more attention in high school, because there's a reason these are classics.
Absolutely, yes.
But it's interesting now.
Animal Farm is probably, it's amazing. Being a leader, when I took on leadership positions, that's when Animal Farm started to resonate in a different way. I could read that over and over.
So what's your favorite book?
Definitely. Honestly, Animal Farm is one of them. Animal Farm is definitely one of them, specifically because relationships are so important to me. And just sort of like the different ways human beings react to each other and react to different scenarios, and the way the psyche works. It's so interesting to see. And of course, at the time, the first time I read the book was in middle school. I actually thought that this was a story about animals. It didn't occur to me that no, this is a story just about human beings in general. And I have to say, because I really love people. And I love to figure out what makes people tick, what inspires them, what motivates them. And I think I just reread Animal Farm 2 years ago when my daughter read it in middle school. And so having conversations with her, we would every day we would read a chapter, and then we would talk about it. And I would ask her, "What do you think? What do you think the dog is talking about? Tell me, what do you think Pig's really up to? And just, and giving her my perspective, to hear it from, a child, the perspective from an adult. But I would have to say that's probably still one of my favorite books, because I think it really reminds me of humanity and what motivates different people, and what motivates people to act and do the things that they do. My love of humanity is why I think that book remains one of my favorites.
What's the last movie you saw?
Oh, I have a sore spot for that, because it's been over a year since I've been to the movies. I was probably Avengers Endgame. I'm pretty sure it was Avengers Endgame. I'm a huge fan of any superhero, Marvel or DC. I have a secret passion. I believe that if you watch superhero teams, each member of the team has their own unique power. And yet they come together, right, to save the world. And that's my secret passion in life, to sort of work with a team of super people who all come together to save the world. And so I'm fascinated with anything related to superheroes. And soon, when I finally move into my office, you'll see I have a number of little DC comic pictures and tchotchkes that I keep around. But I do believe that is when we are our best, when we can bring a group of diverse people together who all have different skills and talents, but we're still working together towards a similar goal. And so I'm pretty fascinated with anything related to superheroes.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Ooh, the Serenity Prayer is actually the Serenity Prayer is, and I don't know that that's a quote, but it's something that resonates with me, because I think it speaks to, doing what you can to change the things that you can, right? Just do what you can to change the things you can, but also understand and give up the things you can't. Just because I think, one, it helps me, because again, I love superheroes, right? So that thought that you could change the world, you hope to make a positive difference. But that's the way I'm driven. That's the way I'm hardwired, is that I can make a change, right? I can make a change, and we can make a change together. And I think that the Serenity Prayer, is to just have an understanding of the things that you can and work towards that. And then, be okay with what you can't. Because there's plenty of work to go around, right? There's plenty of space for us all to step up and take on a new challenge. So I would have to say, it's not a quote, but the Serenity Prayer is one that it's probably a daily mantra in my life, and sort of keeps me focused and helps me not overextend myself.
Who is your childhood hero?
Ooh, interesting. And I have two, so I have to share. One, the Bionic Woman, right? Lindsay Wagner as the Bionic Woman, and Wonder Woman. And it was as a young girl, you know, they were ladies who were smart and who were pretty and powerful. And it helped me understand that as a young girl, I could do anything, right? I could be strong and I could be smart, you know, and I could be pretty. It was sort of like these were women who could do anything, you know, and they were not bothered by anything, and they were fearless. And so was my mother, right? It was very interesting, you know, and she wasn't fearless, but I thought that she was. But they were these fictional characters that led me to believe that as a woman, you could be strong and you could be smart and you could be fearless and you could be unstoppable. And I look up to them and I still admire them. And I always wished there were more symbols of women who were these fearless, you know, fearless creatures who could take on any challenge. And they were huge. I was huge admirers of them.
Well, great. Well, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and you know, we look forward to getting to know you more once you're here officially in January. So, thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure.